Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to everyone, both in person and online. Welcome to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm Rabbi Scott Kramer. Excuse me. We are praying out of Siddur Slev Shalem, which is downloadable as a PDF file from our synagogue's website. We begin this evening, page 5. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim Kadosh Baruch Hu. We continue page 11. Psalm 95. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, nekad mafana betoda. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, nekad mafana betoda. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. We continue responsively in the English. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector, filled with thanks. Let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai who formed us. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted, like the people at Merivah, like the time at Massah, in the desert when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. Arbaim shanakut bedor v'amaram toeh levavhem v'hem lo yadid rachai asher nishpati v'api im yavaun el menuchati. Page 13, Psalm 96. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruch shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato, sapru v'agoyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nifliotav, ki gadol Adonai, o mehulal miyod. No ra'u Ko Elohim lai lai lai, Kiko Elohe Ami Melilim, Vadonai Shamayim Asa. Had ve'adar lefanav, az ve'tiferet be'mikdasho, avu ladonai mishpachot amim, avu ladonai kavod vos, avu ladonai ke'evod shemo, seu mincha, V'hol chatzorod of lai lai lai, shtachavu ladonai, behadrat kodesh, chilu mipanav kol haaretz, imrum vagoyim adonai malach, avtikum tevel balatimod, yadinamim be'meisharim, yismechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz, Ayiramayamu melo Yalo Sadai Vechol asher bo lai 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 Azirandenu kolat seyar Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot aretz ishpot tevel betzedek ve'yamim be'emunato yalai la lai 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 la la lai lai yai lai 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 la lai la 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 lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai lai. We continue responsively, page 15. Psalm 97. Emily, would you lead us responsively, please? Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine. Righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exult as you, Adonai, pass judgment. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. Or Zarula Tzadik Uli Yisrael Simcha Simchu Tzadikim Badunai Vahoduhu Lezecher Kadisho. Thank you very much, Emily. Page 17, Psalm 98. Mizmor Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash Ki Niflot Asa Hoshia Lo Yemino Uzarawa Kochoadia Adonai Yeshuato Le'ena Goyim Gilad Sid Kato Zachar Chastav Amunato Levei Yisrael Ra'u Cholav Se'aretz Ed Yeshuat Eloheinu Oriu Ladonai Kol Haaretz Bitchum Veranenu V'zameru Zamru Ladonai Bechinar V'kol Zimara B'chatzot Shorot V'kol Shofar Hariv Lifnei HaMelech Adonai Ramayam Umaloho Tevel V'yoshveva Neharot Yimcha Uchaf Yachad Arim Yiranenu Lifnei Adonai Kiva Lishpot Haaretz Yishpot Tevel B'tzedek Ve'yamim Be'meisharim Yalai lalai 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 Yalai lalai 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 Yalai lalai 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 Yalai lalai 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 Yalai lalai 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 Yalai lalai 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 Yai lai 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 lai. We continue page 19 with Psalm 98. Betty, would you lead us, please? Page 19. Adonai is great, and Zion above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, all-inspiring Holy One. Exalt Adonai our God. Bow down before God, the Holy One. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai our God is holy. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kadosho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, page 21, Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod vos, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el kavod yirim Adonai omayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai be'adar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et alzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion kemo ven reimim, Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, vayechasot yarod, uvehechalo kulo omer kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav, yeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz liamu yitem, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. You may be seated. We continue, page 23. Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmianu elam yuchad, Adonai echad u'shamahu echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litila lecha, Dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekora beracha merosh mikedem nesucha, Sov maseh b'machshvat chila lecha, Dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, Mikdash melech ir melucha, Kumitzi mitocha hafecha ravlach shevet b'yemek habacha, V'hu yachamo alayechem lalecha, Dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela, Hitnari me'afar kumi, Livshei vigdei tifartecha mi, Ayad ben Yishai betalachmi, Karva ev nafshi geyala lecha, Dodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela, hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva ore kumi ori, Uri, Uri, Shir Daberi, Kevod Adonai, Alayich Nigla, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, Lo Tevoshi, Velo Tikami Matish Tochachi, Umate Mi Bach, Yechasu Ani Ayami, Venivnatayir, Al Tila, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela, V'hayulim Shisa, Sho esayich v'rachakuko mivalayich yasis alayich Elohayich kimcha eschatan al kala lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabela yamin usmo tifroti v'et Adonai taritzi ayadish Ben Parzi Venismacha Venagila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila. We're on page 25, the last stanza of Lecha Dodi. We rise and we face towards the west to greet the Shabbat bride. Bo'i v'shalom materet bala gam besimcha uvetzala toch emunei am segula bo'i chala lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabela. You may be seated. We continue page 27 with Psalm 92. A psalm, the song of the day of Shabbat. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. The arrogant do not understand. The fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms only to be destroyed forever. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Tzadik Tamar Yifrach Ki Erez Balvanon Yiske Shetulim Bevet Adonai Bechatz Road Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenuvun Besevam Deshenim Verananim Yehu Lehagid Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri Below Avlatabo, page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you are enthroned, you are eternal. In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai. for all time. So once again, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to everyone. So glad that you are spending time with us. It's so nice to see so many people in our sanctuary as well. So I hope this is a nice trend, and we can get our minions back. Every Friday morning in Jerusalem, I used to get up early in the morning and walk about a mile to Machane Yehuda, better known as the Shuk. It was a walk that I enjoyed taking every week and looked forward to it with childish anticipation. I would go out on my Merpeset and look down at the intersection of Rehov Chernichovsky and Harav Herzog from my balcony of my apartment in Jerusalem, and then look at the path I was about to take to get to my destination. I would walk down the 6 flights of stairs with my huge Galkov backpack, an even larger bottle of En-Gedi water, and begin my trek. I first passed the Monastery of the Cross directly across the street from my apartment, down the hill from the Israel Museum. This monastery was built, destroyed, and rebuilt 3 times, and was originally designated a holy site by Queen Helena, mother of Constantine, and noted as the place where the cross that Jesus was crucified on was hewn. Continuing through the beautiful Sachar garden with the Knesset and Israeli Supreme Court in full view, I reach a huge intersection at Shderot Ben Tzvi and Betzalel. Watching the endless lines of cars, I finally dodged the cabs and made it across this busy intersection. I make a left into Nisim Bachar and pass through a religious neighborhood. I make a right at Agrippus, which always makes me feel the history of Israel in its street signs. Agrippus, at the time I was in Israel in 2005, was torn up waiting for the new high-speed trains that make traveling through Jerusalem both faster and a little bit more dangerous. But for now, I walk through the torn-up street, which does not deter one car. I then reach my destination, Machane Yehuda, the Shuk. It is crowded with thousands of people doing the exact same thing I am doing, getting food for Shabbat. Fruit and vegetables of all kinds, some of which I have never seen before. Olives in many different varieties. I always buy the large honeydews and a few clementinas. I cannot resist the sweets, and then I buy a chicken on the rotisserie, already cooked and ready to eat for that evening. I watch with disgust at the live fish on the ice being sold as fresh. Fresh in Israel means still alive. Mountains of every kind of nut and herb you can imagine. Then I see my target, actually 2 things in side-by-side stores. First, the rugelach from Marzipan, the mouth-watering chocolate rugelach. Then the prize, the chalot, the unbelievably sweet and tasty egg chalot of Jerusalem. I buy 2 of them. These 2 chalot are known as lechem mishneh. They are 2 because of the double portion of manna that the Israelites had to collect on Fridays in preparation for Shabbat, where no gathering of the manna took place. In contrast, the Seder for Passover, we put 3 chalot on the table in the form of matzot, since we are bidden not to eat any chametz during Passover. The middle matzah is broken into uneven halves, and we are left with the smaller broken piece and two full unbroken pieces. These two represent the lechem mishneh, which we eat every Friday night, and the broken piece is called the lechem oni, or poor person's bread. This is the bread of affliction that we ate during our slavery in Egypt. This week in Parshat Emor, we learn about a third, even more important lechem, that of lechem hapanim. Literally, lechem hapanim means bread of the faces. The lechem hapanim were a special arrangement of 12 loaves of unleavened bread placed on the shulchan, or table, each Friday night by the priests. The lechem hapanim are taken away from the previous week and eaten by the priests. That is how we know it was matzah. It lasted a week. The name lechem hapanim comes from Exodus, where this bread of display, as it is translated by JPS, is talked about a second time. Every Shabbat day he shall arrange it, the loaves of bread before God. It is from Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, as an eternal covenant. We know that a covenant means an agreement between two sides. What was the covenant of the lechem hapanim, the showbread? The Netziv, Rav Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, explains that the Kohanim placed the lechem hapanim on Shabbat as a service to God, and he in return sent the bracha, the blessing of abundance, to all the inhabitants of Israel. The eternal covenant refers to the covenant of Shabbat that continued throughout all the generations, long after the Beit HaMikdash, or temple, was destroyed. On Shabbat, Israel does not involve itself in the pursuit of livelihood, but enjoys the holiness of the day, partaking only in that which had been previously prepared. In return, God, through Shabbat, sends his blessing of success for the following week. This eternal covenant was shown in a beautiful way in a small town many years ago. There was a simple man who would conscientiously attend a weekly shiur, or Torah class, although he hardly understood any of the material that was being taught. Each week he would return home. His wife would ask him to share with her what he had learned. He would sadly inform her that it had been a bit over his head. She would encourage him to keep attending, and he did. One week the Rav was discussing the mitzvah of the lechem hapanim, explaining how it was arranged on the shulchan every week and how dear it was to God. That week he was able to follow the shiur, and he excitedly returned home to share with his wife what he had learned. "We are simple people," he told his wife. "How can we give God real pleasure?" "I heard," he continued, "that the 12 lechem hapanim that were arranged in the Beit HaMikdash were a very special avoda, or service. Why don't we accept upon ourselves this precious mitzvah?" His wife excitedly agreed, and she lovingly prepared 12 beautiful loaves of challah. That Friday afternoon, he brought them to the synagogue, nervously checked to make sure that no one was around, and then approached the Aron HaKodesh, the Holy Ark, with his eyes lifted toward heaven and an emotion-filled voice. He said, "Hashem, I know how dear the lechem hapanim were to you, and that they are no longer given to you. My wife has made these 12 challahs to serve as lechem hapanim. Please accept our humble offering." He opened the aron, placed the challahs inside, and quickly left the synagogue. A short while later, another Jew entered the synagogue, and with tears in his eyes, he too approached the Aron HaKodesh. God, please help me, he begged. Tonight is Shabbat, and I have no money to buy food. Please have compassion on my wife and children. Please, Hashem. In the midst of his compassionate prayer, he opened the doors of the Aron and was dumbstruck by the sight that met his eyes. 12 beautiful, warm challahs. He broke down in tears, thanking Hashem for this miracle, took out the challahs and brought them home to his family. The next day at prayers, our first Jew waited with bated breath for the Aron to be opened for the Torah reading. Did Hashem accept our offering, he wondered. Finally, the time arrived and the doors were opened. The challahs weren't there. He could hardly contain his excitement. Hashem had accepted his offering. The next week, with even more enthusiasm and zeal, his wife lovingly prepared another 12 challahs. He again entered the synagogue, made sure no one was around, offered his prayer, opened the Aron, and placed the challahs inside. A short while later, the other Jew again entered the synagogue and thanked Hashem for the miracle of last week, explained that his situation hadn't changed much, and asked Hashem to show him kindness again this week. He nervously opened the Aron, saw the challahs, ecstatically removed them and brought them home to his family. The next day in synagogue, he again looked forward to the Torah reading, excitedly saw that their offering had been accepted, and went home filled with a feeling of pride and contentment. This continued for about a year and a half, close to 1,000 challahs. Each week the offering was placed and accepted. Each week miraculous challahs fed the poor family. One Friday afternoon, the Rav was sitting in the balcony of the synagogue. He heard someone walk in and noticed he was carrying a large bag. He watched as he approached the Aron HaKodesh, offered a silent prayer, and then, to his shock, began to place large challahs in the Aron. Unable to believe his eyes, he rushed downstairs and demanded an explanation for this ludicrous disgracing of the Aron HaKodesh. The poor stammering Jew tried to explain that it was Lechem HaPanim and that Hashem had been accepting their offering each week. The Rav, amused by the craziness of the story, invited him up to the balcony to see just how Hashem accepted his offering each week. They both watched as the other Jew entered, offered his prayer, opened the Aron, and removed the challahs. The Rav again went downstairs and demanded an explanation. This man tried to explain how Hashem would send him challahs each week for his poor family. As the matter became clarified, both men left the synagogue feeling crestfallen, and the Rav returned to his studies. That night, the Rav was told in a dream that, as a consequence for disrupting this beautiful and sincere service, he would not live out the remainder of that year. Since the destruction of the temple, God had never had as much pleasure as he had received from these offerings. Simple people giving with all of their hearts. Shabbat Shalom. And I hope each one of you also enjoys the challahs that you eat for Shabbat. And we now continue with Ma'ariv. Please rise, turn to page 39a for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Varach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzavaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. Umahavir yom umevi laila, mavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai Tzavaot Shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu l'olam voed. Baruch atah Adonai Hamari v'aravim, page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadata. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumeinu nesiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam v'oed ki em chayenu v'orech yameinu uvohem menege yomam v'layla v'yavatcha tasi mimenu la'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinanatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech v'shachpecha v'kumecha ukshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtabtam nam zuzot beitecha uvisharecha v'haya'im shamot tishma'u. Marcus v'yosafte de'kanek v'jor shabbat. וחפרת אדוני בכם ויצר את השמיים ולא יהיה מטר בתורה. אלה ורחם ים נפשכם וקשרתם אותם ידיכם לתת להם כימי השמיים על הארץ. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בתיות תכלת והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטו אחרי לבבכם לאחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תסגרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God and there is none other, and we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom and led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds. As their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. ומלכותו ברצון קיבל עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לשירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדור בקודש נהורה תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך ובניך בוקיים לפני משה זה לי אנו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלת מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 45. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום. ושמוצתנו בין לחיים ושלומי אתה ויד עולם ופעוסלנו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הבורא סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. We rise, page 46. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. We now continue with the silent Amidah for Friday night, pages 47 through 52. page 53. Vayechulu hashamayim ve'haaretz v'chol tzivan vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto Kivo Shabbat mikol melachto, Kivo Shabbat mikol melachto, Asher bara Elohim la'asot. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Ho'el HaGadol Gibor v'Anorah, El Elyon Konei Shamayim va'aretz, Magen Avot bidvaro, Mechaye Metim b'mamaro, Ha'el HaKadosh she'en kamohu, Hameniach li'amo, B'yom Shabbat kodsho, Kivam ratza laniach lahem, Kivam ratza laniach lahem, Lefanav navod b'yirav afachad, V'nodeh lishmo b'chol yom tamid, Me'ein ha'berachot, Ela hodot Adon HaShalom, Mekadesh HaShabbat, Umvarech Shavi, Umeniach Bikdusha, Leam Bikdush Neoneg, Zecher, Lemase Vereshit. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, Ritzei v'menuchatenu, Kadeshenu b'mitzvotecha, V'tein chelkenu b'toratecha, Sabenu mituvecha, V'samchenu b'shuatecha, V'tahel libein levdecha b'emet, V'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava uvratzon, Shabbat kodeshecha, V'yanuchu vo Yisroel, Mekadeshei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. And we rise, page 56, as the ark is open for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon HaKol, l'teit gedula li'otzer Bereshit, Shalo asanu kugoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishmachot ha'adama, Shalo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'goraleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim, u'modim, l'fnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, she'hu notei shamayim v'yosed haaretz, Moshe Yikara Bashamayim Imav, Shchinatu zo, Begave Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Einu, Emet Malkeinu Evazulato, Kakatu Betorato, V'yadat Hayam Vashivota Elavavecha, Ki Adonai hu Elohim, Bashamayim imav, V'al haaretz mitachat, Ein od al kein. Gagadu b'toratecha Adonai loch le'olam vo'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom mahu yeh Adonai echad u'shamo Ushamo, Ushamo, Echad. May be seated. Let us turn to page 63 as we continue our march to the next holiday of Shavuot by counting the Omer. At the bottom of the page, 63, we say the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom shlosha yom shehem arba'a shvuot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today is 30 days, 4 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. This week we will observe yard sites for Ida Raymond, Ida Schoenbaum, Isaac Siegel, Jacob Center, Esther Tarika, Chippa Feldman, Rachel Kapoya Halfin, Fanny Carber, and Harry Abrams. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise and join me, page 58, for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba b'yomad divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayichon v'yamechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'maru amen yehei shmei rabba nevarach le'olam l'mel maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudisha b'richu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran v'yoma v'maru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemayim v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'maru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav uyaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'maru amen. You may be seated. Thank you again for joining me, for joining us for Kabbalat Shabbat. It is really nice to see almost a minyan in our sanctuary. It's great. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. We will be back tomorrow morning for the continuation of Shabbat services. There it is. At 9:30 a.m. and tomorrow evening, please join us via Zoom as we celebrate the end of Shabbat with the Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah. If you would like to come and didn't get the link, please email me and I will try and get the link to you before we start tomorrow at 8 p.m. And again, it's really, really nice to see so many people online and in person. I hope we definitely start a trend of getting more people to come back to the show. That would be really nice for all of us. So we will go ahead and conclude our service, page 211, with Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ed nasa v'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra V'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu echad v'yein sheni laham shelo lehachbira b'li reshit b'li tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra V'lo ha'oz v'hamisra v'hu eli v'chai go'ali v'tzur chevli b'yetzara v'hu nisi u'manosli minat kosi b'yom mekra minat kosi b'yom mekra Biyado avkid ruchi biyet isham v'yaira v'imruchi geviati Adonai li v'lo ira Adonai li v'lo ira Shabbat Shalom.